Hello, I'm Keith, and this is my dad, Kerwin. Welcome back to Father and Son, a Star Wars podcast.
Thank you very much for joining us once again. Well, the Book of Boba Fett, the series ended just last week, but we're not yet done talking about Boba Fett, right?
Oh, of course not.
No. So on this episode, we're going to discuss a Disney Plus documentary called Under the Helmet, the Legacy of Boba Fett. And there's also an animated short on Disney Plus called The Story of the Faithful Wookie, which features Boba Fett's first appearance on television, all right? So let's start with talking about the documentary. And just so you know, it's going to be a spoiler review on both. So if you have not seen the documentary,
watch them both on Disney Plus before you come to us.
Exactly. And then come back and then we'll discuss. All right. So here we go. Under the Helmet, the Legacy of Boba Fett. So it takes place in Marin County, California, with the introduction of the Boba Fett design by the concept designer and illustrator Ralph McQuarrie and visual effects artist Joe Johnston.
So the Boba Fett suit was originally used to design super troopers, basically like elite versions of stormtroopers. And there were supposed to be 100 suits designed. But because of budget constraints, they couldn't do it because they didn't have enough money to make 100 suits. So George Lucas came up with the idea, like, let's not make this a bunch of the same suit. Let's make it one person who's a bounty hunter.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, so there was a prototype that was created, right? And you see a video of Ben Burtt, who was the sound designer of the Star Wars films, and he's showing a prototype of the suit being worn by the editor Duwayne Dunham. And it has the same features that we know Boba Fett used today. So there's a rangefinder, a flamethrower, dart throwing device, dart projectiles from each knee, and the jetpack, right? And then they added later the sound of spurs and a poncho, right? Because the inspiration came from a character that Clint Eastwood played in the Westerns of the 60s, the Sergio Leone films. He played this man with no name character where he wore a poncho.
In the Man with No Name.
And the spurs, right. Okay. And then Boba Fett, there was George Lucas decided that he was going to have Boba Fett appear in person at a parade, right? So this was in Marin County back in 1978, right? So this was 2 years before The Empire Strikes Back. And it's interesting because in this parade, you see Darth Vader, someone dressed as Darth Vader, walking down the path, the street, and standing next to Vader is a person wearing a Boba Fett suit. Now, I guess we didn't know.
Prototype.
Right. And, you know, at the time, we didn't know the name. We probably didn't know the name of the character, but we just saw this character walking down the street for the very first time. These kids are running up to him and they're asking for his autograph, and they've never seen his character before, don't know anything about this character, but Boba Fett was such a big hit at that time at the parade. So that was pretty interesting.
Because nobody knew who he was. He got a very limited amount of screen time. I think he had like 6 lines and 7 minutes and 32 seconds of screen time, something like that.
Right. So 2 years later, to your point.
Yeah, that was the documentary.
Boba Fett appeared in The Empire Strikes Back, right?
Yeah.
For the first time on film. And you're right. He only had 6 lines and he only appeared in less than, 6 minutes of film. Like you just said, something like that. So,
no, wait, I think it was 6 minutes, 32 seconds.
Okay. All right.
6 minutes and 32 seconds of screen time.
Very good. All right. So we saw Boba Fett in The Empire Strikes Back, and then he came back in Return of the Jedi. And then the prequel trilogy was in place. So George Lucas then decided that he wanted, that Boba Fett was such a, fantastic creation, of a character. He wanted to make another character. And this time it was going to be called Jango Fett, who would be Boba Fett's father, right? Or the clone, the original clone. And then the actor that was asked to play Jango Fett was Temuera Morrison, right? So this was back in 1999. And the actor who played, Boba Fett little Boba Fett was Daniel Logan. And then for continuity purposes, there are times when George Lucas decided he wanted to go back and rework the original trilogy, and he added some things and created these special editions. And one of the things that he wanted to do was to make sure that this person who you know as Jango Fett, who now becomes Boba Fett, is played by the same, or at least voiced by the same actor.
Yes, so the actor who did the original voice for Boba Fett in the original Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, Temuera Morrison said the lines instead of them.
Right. So they took the lines out from the original actor, the voice actor, and replaced those lines with Temuera Morrison. So now that when we hear Boba Fett or Jango Fett is being played or heard coming from the same actor. And then, of course, we know that now in 2021, Temuera Morrison, returns as Boba Fett.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So that was the documentary. It's a 22-minute documentary. It's short, but it's a very well-informed
it's very good.
Yeah, it's very good, well-informed information. So we highly recommend that you check it out. All right. So now we're going to go into talking about the story of the Faithful Wookie.
Yes, this was the animated TV short that was showed. Of course, it didn't have a name in the holiday special, but they named it now. So,
right.
I've got this part.
Yeah, you got it.
So Luke, Leia, and 3PO and R2 are on board the RS Revenge, waiting for Han and Chewie to return on a search for a mystical talisman. So, for some reason, Chewie says the transmission, Han is hanging upside down at the back of the ship, and Chewie's piloting the Falcon on a collision course with the ship.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah. And who was seeing this transmission? So it's Luke and Leia.
Yes, the rebels.
The rebels are getting this transmission from Chewie.
Yep. So Chewie narrowly avoids the RS Revenge, the rebel cruiser. I mean, so Luke, 3PO, and R2 head out to find Han and Chewie in the Pana system. But the Falcon crashes into an ocean of slime, and Luke's Y-Wing is devoured by this sea creature thing. But yes, so somebody blasts the creature with a stumble, and it wasn't Luke, so somebody is nearby. And it turns out to be Boba Fett.
Right.
So he appears and leads Luke and the droids back to the Falcon by creature back. So, I'll edit this out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Boba Fett appears and leads Luke and the droids to the Falcon by creature back. Luke watches Chewie toss out the talisman through the trash chute, and suddenly Luke just passes out and hits the floor. So it turns out that the talisman gives a sleeping effect to all humans near it. And the only way to keep Luke and Han alive is to, quote, let the blood rush to their head, unquote.
Which is why they're hanging upside down.
Yeah, so that's why Han was hanging upside down. So Boba says that he knows there's a cure for the virus in the city and that he can get it. So, of course, Chewie decides to go with them. And even though Fett doesn't want him there because he has an ulterior motive, he lets Chewie come. Right. But when they get to the gate of the city, Boba tells Chewie to stay behind. And he finds that cure pretty quickly, but not before making a secret transmission to Darth Vader.
Darth Vader shows up in this animated series. How about that?
Yep, and sounds like Vader.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
James
absolutely.
Earl Jones. So, Boba Fett sends the transmission. Then once it's over, he picks up the cure, picks up Chewie, and then heads off. But back on the Falcon, 3PO and R2 intercept the transmission and find out that Boba's not a good guy at all. In fact, Vader's right-hand man. So once Luke and Han get the cure and are back on their feet, Luke invites Boba to stay with them and go back to the Rebel base with them. But that's when R2 lets it all out, and 3PO has to translate that. R2 is angry because Luke called Boba an ally and a faithful friend, when he's really not. He's a backstabber, and he works for Vader. So Boba just backs out slowly and then says, "We'll meet a grand friend," and jetpacks right out of the Falcon.
Right. And then our team just flies off, and there's a question that Luke asked Chewie, like, how did you know that he was not friendly?
Chewie's like, he just didn't smell right.
Right. So Boba Fett just didn't smell right. So, and that was the episode. So that was the animated short. It's about 9 minutes long. So just to give you a little bit of history about this short. So this was a part of the Star Wars Holiday Special that aired on CBS in 1978. And this was the first time that we were introduced, if you were around at that time, that was the first time that, someone like me did see Boba Fett before the films, right? So this was his first appearance. And then, of course, 2 years later, we see him in The Empire Strikes Back. And then 3 years after that, in Return of the Jedi. And the voices for these characters are voiced by the actual actors from the films. So we heard Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, Anthony Daniels, and James Earl Jones as Darth Vader.
But I gotta say, this Boba Fett reminds me of the Mandalorian.
Okay. Well, yeah. As a matter of fact, we're going to talk about this book on our next episode. All right.
The part 2.
Yes. So we're going to do a storybook time, and this same episode that you can find on Disney Plus is under the Disney Vintage series. You should be able to find that 9-minute short. There's also a little golden book based on that short. So our next episode, our next episode is going to be our story time, where we will read this book called The Story of the Faithful Wookie. All right. So we hope you join us for that. Okay. Well, thank you very much. That is it for this episode. That's our review of Under the Helmet and The Story of the Faithful Wookie, both now available on Disney Plus. Keith, where can people find us?
Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Radio Public, Amazon Music, Audible, Pandora, Spreaker, Red Circle, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Okay, thank you. We also have a YouTube channel. Please subscribe if you have not done so already. Those subscription numbers are very important to us.
Google Podcasts. Don't forget Google.
Absolutely. And you can leave a review on any of your favorite streaming platforms. We would love to hear what you have to say. Those reviews are important as well. Leave us a rating or leave us a comment.
And don't forget to check out our website, baldursightgalaxy.com.
All right. Well, thank you very much. So until our next episode, take care, and we will see you again.
And again, let us know in the comments if you have any ideas for other episodes.